Good morning, I'm Jennifer Palmer, and I'll be your online worship leader today. During the service, we recommend you have your Zoom screen set to speaker view. This is Common Ground, our celebration of worship for people of many paths who are gathering virtually to share in the responsible search for meaning and truth. Pathways is a warm and open community where all who come with open minds and kind hearts are welcome, regardless of ability, age, race, gender identity, or sexual orientation. If you're visiting with us for the first time today, we welcome you to our virtual service and hope you'll visit us in person when we can be together again. Please feel free to introduce yourself in the chat. To send us a note about your visit or ask for more information about Pathways, email office@pathwaysuu.org. We hope that all who join us today find this a safe and inspiring online place to worship. Now, please take a moment to tune into your body and take some deep breaths as we listen to our opening song this morning, hymn number 1009, Meditation on Breathing.
Breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. I'm breathing peace. I'm breathing out love.
As we virtually light our chalice this morning, please join me in these words by Samantha Gupta. Today, I ask for the resources to be present to myself, the resources to be present to others, the resources to lean towards what is hurting, the intuition of my body, the trust and shared leadership of these friends, the insight of our collective wisdom, the embodiment of all my skin and bones and blood, the ocean of my being, to wave and crest and fall on the rocks of every holy moment. I invite you now to join in a renewal of our sacred promises. Please read along with me. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve human need to the end that all souls shall grow in harmony with the divine. Thus do we covenant with each other. Our call to worship is Here We Remember Ourselves by Reverend Gretchen Haley. Give up the fight for some other moment, some other life than here and now. Give up the longing for some other world, the wishing for other choices to make, other songs to sing, other bodies, other ages, other countries, other stakes. Purge the past, forgive the future, for each come too soon. Surrender only to this life, this day, this hour, not because it does not constantly break your heart, but because it also beckons with beauty, startles with delight, if only we keep waking up. This is the gift we have been given, these body clothes, this heartbreak, this pulse, this breath, this light, these friends, this hope. Here we remember ourselves, all a part of it all, giving thanks and centering joy. Come, let us worship together. Our worship song today is a traditional Navajo prayer, hymn number 1069, Ancient Mother, arranged and performed by Susan T. Mashiyama. You can find more of her beautiful music at www.susansharpsongs.com. I'll put a link to her website and her YouTube channel in the chat after the service.
Ancient mother, I hear you calling. Ancient mother, I hear your song. Ancient mother, I feel your laughter. Ancient mother, I taste your tears.
Our speaker this morning is our Pathways student minister, Anna Warner. Anna is a third-year Master's of Divinity student at Bright Divinity School. They go by they, them, or she, her pronouns and have two partners. Anna loves stories, oral or written, and multi-faith mysticism. The narratives people create about themselves, the world around them, and the divine are essential to how we understand ourselves as individuals and our communities. They could also probably talk about how much they love trees for hours. Now we welcome Anna to our virtual pulpit.
Good morning. As the holidays grow closer, I find myself in a strange place. This is not new. The holiday season has always been a strange mix of jubilation and discomfort. The end of the semester means a brief relief, and the holidays themselves often mean traveling away from the comforts of home to be with family. I am slowly starting to form my own holiday traditions, and I have realized that there is a little bit more agency involved than I'd ever considered before, beyond choosing ham over turkey or omitting cranberry sauce altogether. In considering November's Soul Matters theme, Holding History, I found myself thinking about the history we hold in our bodies, of trauma and how that can be made complicated by the encroaching holiday season. I have an important note before I continue. I will be discussing trauma, though I will not touch upon any specific traumatic events directly. I invite you to take a deep breath in with me and a deep breath out. Humans are meaning makers. We make meaning and significance constantly, constructing our perspectives and sharing them with others. Even language itself is a communal construction for conveying meaning. One of the ways that we do this is through storytelling, whether it be through media, books, or hushed conversations in kitchens. As you heard, I love stories. I love what they reveal about ourselves and others. Another way we construct meaning is through religion. I firmly believe that religion is, among other things, a way for us to cope with the world around us, with the good, the bad, and even the mundane aspects of existence. Because we are so tied to this ability to make meaning, we can't really avoid creating narratives about the traumas we experience, how we make sense of trauma, or even how we make sense of the lack of sense happens within ourselves and often with others. We frame the experience in our minds, or we try to avoid thinking about it. And if we speak to others about it, we navigate even murkier waters. We might alter our words, pepper in different adjectives depending on the person's spice tolerance. You can tell Aunt Lynn you were assaulted, but you can't mention that you were at a party. And you probably shouldn't even bother telling Uncle Nathan. If another person is traumatized too in the experience, we might navigate whether we even have a right to tell the story. There's an additional piece of the narrative, what claim we have to an experience we think about, ideally perhaps, what pieces of the puzzle to share and with which people. We shape our trauma's narrative in the aftermath, and the traumatic experiences shape us as well. Of course, trauma is more than a narrative, more than a story. It is deeply connected to one's physical and or emotional state, and often in speaking or thinking or reliving the trauma, the persons re-enter into the traumatic experience. Trauma, therefore, seeps into our bodies beyond physical wounds. Bessel van der Kolk delves into this in his book, The Body Keeps the Score, which I highly recommend reading. Throughout the book, he presents a key theme. Traumatized bodies often remain paused in the moment or moments of trauma. This pause has a domino effect. Traumatized persons can be stuck in their trauma. This creates a disconnect from the present, our bodies preoccupied with anticipating and reacting to trauma, that we lose the ability to engage mindfully with our setting. This can manifest in thousands of ways and in a wide range of severity. Sometimes it manifests by being distracted. unable to enjoy dinner in a restaurant because the table closest to you has unmasked people coughing. Sometimes it manifests by taking direct action to avoid perceived threats at the cost of enjoying the present. Our brains are ultimately wired for survival, even in the absolute worst conditions. We want to survive what happens to us. A traumatic event or experience destabilizes this goal. I've seen that trauma is sometimes referred to as something that we cannot anticipate, and I want to counter that a little bit. This definitely covers some types of trauma, but it also ignores others like systemic racism, bigotry, etc. Therefore, I'm being very intentional when I say that I think what characterizes trauma is the destabilizing experience. It destabilizes our goal for survival. One metaphor that van der Kolk uses that I think is extremely helpful is that our brains function like alarm systems. A brain that is healthy or less traumatized would operate the way a successful alarm system will go off when it detects a threat. A brain that has been traumatized has learned a new type of threat, a new thing to watch out for. It has experienced something that threatens survival, and it wants to protect itself against subsequent threats, whether they're real or imagined. This can result in a state called hyperarousal, wherein the alarm system is constantly on alert. It becomes easier to trigger even when there is no immediate threat. This is akin to your cat setting off the house alarm while you're at work. The alarm, programmed to detect intruders, detects movement and assumes danger where there mostly is none. My alarm system is recuperating, but one of the ways that I experienced this was when, as a kid, I first learned about the rapture at church. The notion of randomly getting sucked up into heaven or left to suffer hellish consequences at a time where no one is supposed to predict had me inevitably searching for ways to predict it. Since I also learned that we were supposedly nearing that event, and since one of the signs for it approaching was the sound of trumpets, I would listen for trumpets. These episodes were triggered in retrospect somewhat randomly, but often they were always after church on Sundays. I would listen and listen and listen. If I didn't hear trumpets, I was scared that that meant that I was unworthy to hear them and that I would not be saved. Every unexpected sound during those episodes was suspect. Even if they sounded nothing like a trumpet, my first internal response was the same. Sometimes I nonsensically wondered whether I didn't actually know what a trumpet would sound like, and therefore I might hear the sound but miss the significance. Or that the sound was disguised and that my inability to hear it as what it was a sign that I wasn't meant to be sucked up. The metaphor of an alarm system refers to pre-programmed physical escape plans triggered in the oldest parts of the brain. Van der Kolk refers also to two different parts of our brain, the emotional and the rational. And I love that he does this. He emphasizes explicitly that emotion is not in opposition to reason. In fact, he even goes so far as to say that our emotions assign value to experiences and are thus the foundation of reason. These two parts of our brains acting harmoniously results in us feeling normal, but they can also function relatively independent from each other when our survival is threatened. He uses another metaphor that is very helpful for this. The rational and emotional brain parts as more or less a competent rider and his unruly horse. When the weather is calm and the path is smooth, the rider feels in control. But as soon as this calm is destabilized, the horse can bolt, with the rider holding on for dear life. This is, of course, just one physical and emotional impact of trauma, yet its pervasiveness clearly leads to additional issues. People cope with this in various ways, healthy or otherwise. With the holidays approaching, we can draw upon past holiday experiences to tentatively anticipate how our future holidays will be. The holidays themselves also come with their own communal and personal assumptions. Trauma associated or even unassociated with the holidays can often find more potential triggers for our alarm systems. In our country, we are taught that these holidays are meant for blood relatives, the right perception of family, so much so that spending time with friends over Thanksgiving has earned the slang title Friendsgiving. We are obligated not just to spend time with an acceptable group, we are also expected to communicate with the people that may be deeply unhelpful to our alarm systems. There's also this trend of holidays being equivalent to an either or. Either you are with your family and that's great, or you're with your family and that's not great. The holidays are just polarized times all around. I think it falls into the binary of good and bad that stretches over much of our culture. I know I didn't realize how much I fell into this until my therapist pointed it out a few years ago. And now I'm always awkwardly aware of myself whenever I ask someone, is that good or bad? This trend of good or bad is mirrored in the expression of mental health on social media, wherein often either people continually share and fixate upon their suffering, finding their identity in their trauma, and often in contention with what others perceive as help. Or there is a toxic positivity where allowing oneself to feel or express anything negative is disallowed. I don't think that there is a wrong way to feel about the holidays that approach, whether you find them good or bad or just kind of meh. I think your feelings are valid. Holidays themselves are days set aside not just to add to the structure of time, they function as a means of setting aside time for specific focuses. As winter approaches, I believe we have demarcated several holidays to help with easing into the colder weather and the decreasing sunlight. Days meant for us to gather with our support systems and just pause. The cultural narratives surrounding these holidays have not been unproblematic, and there is much that can and needs to be said about America and our treatment of Indigenous persons and other people of color. So as you can see, there is a lot of stacking of different narratives, individual, communal. There's a lot to manage on our plate. For our part as individuals, I believe that doing no harm and doing what we can to be aware of and seeking justice for our systemic bigotry can coexist alongside taking time for ourselves this holiday season, however we wish to approach it. I believe that being aware of our individual trauma as we enter into this time helps us navigate these waters and find a place where we can rest according to our needs. The holidays do not have to be good or bad. They can be whatever you need them to be. That being said, I don't have easy answers, and I won't pretend to. I'm the kind of person that's always asking questions, whether it's compulsively checking on those around me or getting too invested in hypothetical situations. There are many factors to consider regarding the holiday season, including which holidays to celebrate, who to spend them with, what and how much we eat. And I want to reiterate that there is no one right way to feel about this time of year. Navigating trauma during this time can be especially difficult. During these next several weeks, there will be much clamoring for our attention, whether that's hundreds of brands screaming about their sales, figuring out what to eat and with whom and where, or maybe there's a lack of planning and company in your life that is equally difficult. Much of what I have read regarding healing from trauma involves connecting to the present moment, finding safe spaces to feel how you feel, finding safe people and communities, and growing in self-awareness. Van der Kolk utilizes a variety of different treatments for his patients and stresses in connecting with the patient, finding ways to help them be mindful to their body and to the world around them that work for them. One thing that he stresses universally is that being silent about your trauma reinforces its isolation. This, of course, does not mean that you are obligated to tell everyone your experiences. You don't owe people your whole life story. I know I need to hear that and tell myself that often because I am an over-explainer to a T. What he means when he says that being silent about your trauma reinforces its isolation is that you need to acknowledge and name your experiences if only for yourself. What matters most is not avoiding the experience. The longer you go without confronting the trauma, the more your sense of self is compromised. It takes time and energy to name it and begin healing, but it also takes an enormous amount of energy avoiding it. This is much easier said than done. Letting yourself sink into the present moment can be a lot like cleaning a wound. It will sting, but your wound will begin to heal without fear of infection. You can learn to love the parts of yourself that you didn't know you previously held a distaste for or a hate for. Van der Kolk specifically cites his own experiences with his dad basically locking him in the basement anytime he committed a toddler-like offense, and how in learning to address that for himself, he kind of realizes that for him and his own experiences, he was actively neglecting his inner child, to the point where there was a sort of cultivated dislike or discomfort or distaste for that. How you choose to acknowledge and name what is done for you helps you understand how you feel about it and decide how you want to progress forward. This may mean individually that you have to acknowledge that celebrating Christmas is detrimental to you personally. It may not. You may choose to celebrate that or any other holidays in the area that is appropriate to celebrate. Regardless, I'm going to stress again that you are not less of a person if you feel disconnected or connected to the holiday spirit. You don't have to have a Hallmark holiday movie moment where you fall in love with the season. Allow yourself to reach for a friend or a loved one. Take a moment to drink your favorite drink and savor it, or eat your favorite meal and savor it. The meaning that you associate with these holidays is not insignificant, and despite whatever previous or ongoing traumas you might face, I want to stress that you are not out of time. You can still always begin altering or affirming what you give meaning to. For the holidays, this might look like spending time with chosen family or setting time aside to mourn those you have lost. It might mean avoiding holiday films or music or parties entirely. You are allowed to start small in your steps to reconnect with the encroaching holiday season, even if that means reconnecting to and affirming your choice to abstain from celebrating or to enter into the celebrations. And you do not have to perfect this all in one holiday season. Our trauma and the histories that our bodies hold will not go away. And things will not always go perfectly, regardless of how many holiday seasons you must navigate in the history you hold for yourself. You have time, and you are worth the time, however much that may be, to find a path through this season that works for you. You are enough, and you are worth paying attention to. I'd like you to breathe with me one last time. Take a deep breath in and a deep breath out. You are worthy.
Thank you so much, Anna. That was beautiful. Our virtual chalice extinguishing is by Reverend Scott Taylor. May we remember that we never walk out into the world alone. We stand on the shoulders of brave and generous ones who have gone before. We walk beside companions ready to catch us when we fall. We hold memories of dear ones in our hearts who keep us connected to our center. May we make this our most important work, to remember that who we are does not end at the edges of our own skin. Our closing song for today is hymn number 123, Spirit of Life. Carolyn McDade wrote this as a personal prayer, a request for support, for rest, for renewal, for perspective. Our thanks again to Anna and to all of you who joined our Zoom service today. Let's take some time to thank Anna, ask any questions we have, and visit for a bit after the service. The adult groups will start at 11:30. We hope that each of you on your individual path through the joys and questions of life found some common ground with your fellow travelers today. Our benediction is Wild Geese by Mary Oliver, read for us by Anna.
You do not have to be good. You do not have to walk on your knees for 100 miles through the desert repenting. You only have to let the soft animal of your body love what it loves. Tell me about despair, yours, and I will tell you mine. Meanwhile, the world goes on. Meanwhile, the sun and the clear pebbles of the rain are moving across the landscapes, over the prairies and the deep trees, the mountains and the rivers. Meanwhile, the wild geese, high in the clean blue air, are heading home again. Whoever you are, no matter how lonely, the world offers itself to your imagination, calls to you like the wild geese, harsh and exciting, over and over announcing your place in the family of things.
Thank you so much, Anna. Now let me stop sharing here. There we go. Anna, that was beautiful. All I can say is that I think you chose the correct profession because that was wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And thank you all for letting me speak.
Our pleasure. If I could ask, what made you decide to go into ministry?
As I mentioned, my own alarm system is very faulty. And I started getting help for it a few years ago. And beyond it saving my life, I think it really opened up like a flower blossoming. I know that's really cheesy, but that's how it felt. How much I care about other people and how much I really am interested in hearing and observing and listening to the stories that we all hold. And I feel that I want to be a presence in people's lives for that. So I kind of found my way to chaplaincy through that.
Okay, I think that's beautiful, and it's funny because I love that analogy about the flower opening. One of my favorite songs back when I was Catholic had that in it. Hearts opening like flowers, and I just think it's beautiful because it's not forced, it's just natural, and because you can't force that, and I don't think it's cheesy at all.
I'm glad. I said it and then I was like, oh, huh, okay.
Anna, it's Carol. That's a great way to look at life. Well, okay.
That sums up very eloquently how I experience the day to day.
And you get by.
Yeah.
It might work out, it might not.
I'll survive, and that's what I want to focus on.
We all will survive.
Yeah.
Thank you. It was a beautiful, beautiful service. Did you pick out the Psalms?
I only picked out the Spirit Mother because I forgot that there were multiple. So Jennifer chose the other two, but I adore what she chose. When we went over it yesterday, I was just sitting there in awe and just delighted. But I chose the other things.
And I love Wild Geese.
I stumbled across that poem a few years ago, right when I started intentionally healing. And I think it's one of those instances where art helped save my life. Not that I was, but especially the you only have to let the soft animal of your body love what it loves, just like wrecked me. In the best way, of course.
Mm-hmm. You did a good job. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to thank Marty for making those music videos too. Those were ones that she had made.
They're beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I almost forgot to put the info about the harp player in the chat.
Mm-hmm.
Let me get that.
Jennifer, I want to thank you too for calling out the people who helped put together this common ground. Excuse me. I just think it's so great that we get these beautiful services and so many different people are involved, giving us their expertise and their passion for getting it right. And having been with Pathways these number of years, I know that it has been up and down, but we have made some great progress. As the technology has gotten better, the folks doing the services have gotten better, and it's really good. So thank you. Thank all of you for all that you do.
Thank you, Ruby.
I wanted to say amen, but I think I'll say Ruby, because it's true. And our young people are amazing. I just think y'all are the, as my grandmother would say, the cat smell. You're great.
And I think we're really lucky to have Anna. I've been fortunate enough to be on Zoom with Anna a couple of 3 times, I guess, by now. And she's great, and we're really lucky to have her.